decided who. Just get your booty on all the way over in here. We haven't decided how or who or what this intro really should be like, and I feel like you probably have a little bit more of a plan. Is that formulated in your mind, like a system for that introing the show?
Not a specific, just a mostly a welcome everyone. We are the Mindful Misfit podcast, and this is episode 4 on Memorial Day. Today is Memorial Day. It is also the last day of the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month.
I mean, I have talk about mental health awareness. I have 9,000 things bouncing through my head right now. One of the most, probably the thing that's sticking the most right now in my brain, that's occupying the most of it, is this microphone. Honestly, I want to adjust this. It's fun. Everybody bear with me. Everybody take a deep breath. Everybody out there in the world watching this, take a deep breath with us. 1, 2, 3. It's all gonna be good. We're gonna let the things come to us the way that they come to us, and we learn, just like in life, as we go. We had a whole discussion before we even came on with this misfit business about these mics. And somebody took me to task and asked me to be a little bit more prepared in a very subtle kind way. But I know what's happening here.
Glad
It's
the
all
intention
good.
was perceived
I got
well.
it. I understand. I know that sometimes the fly by the seat of your pants can be a little bit. What is it?
Jarring.
Jarring? Well,
No, but also it has enabled me to learn how to adapt and pivot with grace. And so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's intentional sometimes. I mean, I'm not trying to. Yeah, I know you want me to stay focused on this and do that at the same time. And I know that you want to. What'd you do?
I didn't do anything.
You
I
did
thought it was
this.
set up just
God, it's
to
tight.
hit it
Shay, I
live
can't even
and
turn it. I can't even turn it.
So obviously today's episode is based on the shenanigans that occurs between the three of us. It's always very much a lot of fun and always learning.
Okay.
And good times.
You're like, what do you want? This is what it usually comes down to, isn't it? Adrian, what do you want?
What do you want?
What is your
What's
aim?
the goal?
What
and
is
then
your
we'll
goal?
reverse
Okay.
engineer it.
My goal is for us, Shay and I, to be able to share this microphone without the bar being all up in her grill, in her face. I feel like that's pretty good. Yeah. See, we got this. I know it might look like to some of y'all out there. Most recent company included. Like, it doesn't look like we know what we're doing. I'll have you know, we don't know what we're doing. No, I'm just kidding. We know exactly what we're doing. And what we're doing is teaching and sharing with how to experience and live in a space of controlled surrender.
Yeah.
Right?
And capturing the moments.
The moments
and all of its glory.
Yep. I feel like I can't hear anything actually in this.
Well, I'm rocking these headphones.
So we're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
So it's more about the conversation than the production, anyways.
Yes,
This
definitely.
is podcast
always.
style. Yes, you're seeing us right here on YouTube. Have this whole conversation. This is the Mindful Misfit from the Spiritualish Collective. I am Alove of the Spiritualish Collective. To my right or to your left is LizzyB, and to my left or to your right is ShayLeigh. Now, okay. We had quite the experience this weekend. I think I know we are conscious, which I don't know how you guys feel about that word, but it kind of irritates me. It grates on me a little bit because I think it's such a it's overused in
the word
some
conscious
capacity. Yes. And people who kind of tend to call themselves conscious maybe sometimes don't show up that way. because it's just easy to throw a stamp on that and be like, yeah, I'm conscious. But what's really happening is we are women who are living and walking their spiritual walk,
Mhm.
right? And then sharing with other, oh, that sounds so much better. Sharing with other women how, I mean, sharing with everybody, sharing with the collective, how we integrate, process, alchemize the experiences that we have in our lives to live a more connected lifestyle.
Absolutely. And I like, honestly, as much as I don't like it,
Okay.
I do love that we are also a display of just the process.
Mm,
There's no, we're not going to have it packaged real neat because that's not reality in the most case.
Working
And
through
in
it real
most
time.
cases, say again,
say,
Working through it real
wait,
time.
working
what?
through it real time.
Lean this
Yeah,
way. What'd you
exactly.
say?
Because we're working through it real time.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right along with everybody else.
Right along with everybody
Yeah.
else.
And so, man, if I'd had 3 just gorgeous women showing me the fumble sometimes, which I don't even want to call it a
Mm,
fumble. That's just kind of
mm,
for lack of better terms.
mhm.
That would have helped me out as far as anxiety goes with I've spoken on the professionalism package before. And so trying to fit into this box that is not actually realistic to fit into because we're humans and we do human things. And so sometimes it's a little funny. Sometimes it's a little funny.
Are
Yeah.
you speaking about a particular instance?
I'm just talking about our start really
Just like
today.
how
Yeah.
like our start today, and
Yeah.
just
And just as an
also
example of, moving through things without moving through things in front of everyone.
right.
Like, yeah, just doing it as it is, vulnerability, like fully. Mm-hmm.
Real talk. Like some of you are out there trying to create things and grow things, and you want it to be perfect before you release it. I am one who is like, if your heart is there and the faith is there and the commitment is there, I'm one who tends to believe just like put it out there and just roll with it because nothing is finished. Once
Here
it's
we are.
finished, and here we are,
Yeah.
exactly,
Rolling with it.
rolling with it, or
we-
rolling with it.
And we just keep showing up.
That's all you got to do
Mhm.
with authenticity and vulnerability and integrity and honesty and
Mhm.
a whole lot of love and compassion. I mean, it's really is the fruit of the spirit if you can find a way to walk around like that. You know, there's a song. The fruit is of the spirit's not a cantaloupe. The
I've
fruit
not
of the
heard this.
spirit's not a cantaloupe. The fruit of the spirit's not a cantaloupe. It's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm
that's
gonna
a
have to
good
teach you. That's a good
one.
one. Yep. My children taught me that. And listen, if I'm not out here
Oh.
trying to walk that walk and have that song playing in my mind with some of the instances that we find ourselves in where we are honestly in the moment having to temper the fire, right? And finding ourselves in a place of communication frustration, right? But not wanting to seeing the potential longevity of a relationship or a partnership or a collaboration and not wanting to set fire to that, but also simultaneously wanting to burn the shit to the ground. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
And how important it is for us to just show up and follow through with that,
Mm,
because
mhm.
not only does it help us as individuals have like my favorite, the mental fortitude flex,
Yeah.
but also might shine a light on the receiving end of that conversation, and hopefully it's something that they may not have experienced in the past, and then to be able to continue and follow through it without burning the bridge and walking out.
Woo-wee! Throwing a
Mhm.
match behind my back and just watching it burn. Walking
Trail
away
of
looking,
gasoline.
man, fly as fuck with the fire behind me. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. But then there was a time, right? I think
Mhm.
there was a time for all three of us that it would be like, nope, this is done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing this anymore. But one thing that a thought that I had on the way to, we're going to talk a little bit more about where this is where this conversation is, the roots of this conversation, um, uh, in just a second. But before we do that, the title of this episode is The Collective We Out Here, because we really are out here. And meaning, yes, us as a collective, the spiritualish collective, but also in addition to um, what the collective itself out there in the world seems to be experiencing. And I think we always say the micro mimics the macro. Mercury is in retrograde, so I'm probably going to be stumbling all over my words because Mercury is a planet of communication. So micro mimicking the macro. We have found ourselves in several situations where there is it's I don't want to say that it's difficult to navigate, but what we're bumping up against as far as thinking versus feeling, and then also intention and consistency in intention, which seems to be something that's happening out there as we push through these old paradigms of partnership and collaboration and relationships and male female. We seem to be very, very much confronted with that right now, how each of us are showing up in relationships and in exchanges, really in any capacity. And that's not just the masculine and feminine out there, but also the masculine and feminine that exist inside. And it's been very interesting, I think, working through that real time with people. And you said something earlier about how we can exhibit. There was a time, when maybe we weren't as patient, maybe we weren't as compassionate, but our containers have deepened as far as that's concerned. That was a huge part of the lesson that I think that we have been learning over the past 2 years is to much who is given, much is required. And so I'm going to give you a lot, meaning spirit is going to give us a lot, but also I'm going to take you through this entire process so you can hold the thing as it comes in, right? And so there has been a deepening in us to be able to hold the thing as it comes in. And the stakes have gotten higher and the relationships are more they seem to be more, I don't want to say high pressure, but there is a little bit more like focused intensity on what it is that we are creating and working on. There's a lot of honing of the sword. Like I said before, first we had to prove that we could even hold the sword. Then we were wielding the sword. Now we're honing the sword and there's a finite tuning that's happening. You said being in the space and holding the space for the people to go through the things. This brought me back to a break conversation that is one of the most valuable parts of break method, for me at least, in becoming a graduate and then the work that I've done with it, from a more not being a facilitator, but also working with people in a facilitation capacity, is that you start to see people in relation to their emotional dysfunction, right? So and it helps you to understand and see like what's being reflected back to you, and that is an amalgamation of somebody else's prior experiences that have nothing to do with you. And so remembering that in the moment that that's what's happening is incredibly powerful, and also creates a space for you to like, oh, settle in, like this is not really about me. This is about something else that they are going through, and how I show up right here in this moment when they are working to elicit a response from me, even though it might be subconscious, right? I'm going to not give them that. So when we're sitting around and we're having conversations about people who want to show up in a certain way, but all they are doing is working to have us reject them, the most powerful thing that we can do is continue to show up.
And I want to continue to show up too, like
Yeah.
I don't want to just like hit it and quit it.
Right.
And it's
And
nice to remember that that serves us just as much as it's serving them.
absolutely.
You know, to me, when you're, I mean, when you're an empath and you're taking on that hurt and that sadness and that what that rejection really feels like, that part can be hard to
Mhm.
like feel everything that they're feeling and want to be a healer and a caregiver and a nurturer and still have to intentionally choose you and
Mm.
like push forward with that, even
Mhm.
though because you know that that's the bigger lesson for them, even if in the moment that might not feel as good.
Mhm.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Do you think some of the you know, because you touched on, and I agree, and we all know that there was a time where we would, you know, guns blazing out
Pew,
this
pew,
piece,
pew,
right?
pew.
So,
Real
do you
quick.
I got on
think
my
that
boots and
that
everything today because I was
She did,
prepared
and her
for it.
flannel.
Yes, and my flannel.
But so do you think that speaks a little bit to like the imbalance of the internal feminine masculine,
Oh my God. Yes,
right? Because
absolutely.
I definitely was like heavy on the masculine for a very long time. You know,
You're in
buck them up,
yourself.
mhm,
Yeah,
I
buck
feel
up.
like
absolutely.
all of us kind of
Mhm,
had to be
mhm,
because of the cards we were dealt, because of the way society is structured.
mhm,
Like we had to kind of pull that out in order to survive a lot of times.
mhm.
So I'm gonna roll it back because this is spiritual-ish, and this is the grounded spiritual, and we could take this way, way, way high and start talking about Heros Gamos and internal union and all of that, and holy union and all of that. But first, before we even get to that point, I want to talk about let's define masculinity and femininity, because that I
Mm.
think that the coming together, the union that's happening within people in that regard, and then how they show up energetically in a more masculine or feminine presentation is key to how we move through this next phase, right? So when we're talking about masculinity, what is masculinity? How what is a masculine, what is energetically masculine?
As defined, is masculinity, also called manhood or manliness, is a set of attributes, behaviors, and roles associated with men and boys. It is distinct from the definition of the biological male sex, as both males and females can exhibit masculine traits.
Right. And
But we
so
know what are some of those traits, like because the you know the definition in there is not
right,
really
Yeah.
that's
expounding.
very
It's just kind
3D,
of
that's
broad,
very
Layered.
worldly,
right? Oh, I should
right?
have used
Yeah,
DuckDuckGo.
can you do Yes, I should have used DuckDuckGo. And then also let's do masculine energy.
Masculine
Mhm.
energy.
And then you had, what were you going to say about that?
I was just gonna say, to me, I love the analogy of like a water bottle
Okay.
and the masculine energy being that bottle itself, the container that kind of holds everything, while the feminine energy is the water within that water bottle
Mm.
that flows, that
Oh.
creates, that, you know, that masculine is holding.
Mhm.
It's not really doing so much. It's just kind of, I mean, it takes a lot to do that, but it's just
Yeah.
staying steady
Mhm.
I
so
like
that the
that
feminine can work
analogy.
within that and just kind of flow and create like
Right.
it's supposed to.
This does expound a little bit. See, I DuckDuckGo, you guys. I shouldn't have been on the Google. So this is more like masculine energy, which is the assertive, direct, action-oriented, basically yang,
Mhm.
versus the feminine, which is receptive, nurturing, passive force. And yeah.
How do you feel like I feel like I had a question about that. Young for you hyper spiritual out there as well. But yeah, that is the yin to the young, and
The yang.
the young um action oriented. How does that fit into, so when we're thinking about action oriented energy and it being masculine, I do like your analogy of the container, right? Because
Mhm.
that's like, please just hold me. Can you just hold it? That's all you got to do is just hold it. That's
Mhm.
really all you got to do.
And that's why we love the Treehouse and Squatch.
Ways for us to move the way that we move with
Mhm.
hands off,
Yeah.
like literally
Yeah,
and
just
figuratively,
do.
hands off.
Yeah.
Just like a nod and a, yep, I'm over here if y'all need anything. Because, I mean, let's be honest. Oh, that just triggered a whole other thing. But I want what I wanted to say is like there's the action piece of that, right? The power and the forward momentum. How do you see that forward momentum and the power behind that showing up as the container?
Like what if that looks like in real life?
Yeah.
I think this is it. I
Okay.
think like Squatch is the perfect real life example for me.
Mhm.
It for you guys that don't know out there, maybe Squatch is a gym, an open air community gym. We have class here once a week, and it's a hub for purpose parallels. That's what Jason always says. That's his thing. He wants to create a space where people can come together, connect, and find alignment to co-create and just be the structure that can happen within. And provide the resources that are necessary, be there if there's something not provided where we can use our voice and ask, but not like hovering, not micromanaging, just like being there, a strength. Just that to me this has been like the most real life 3D example of that. And I didn't even recognize it at first either. And I think that that's beautiful too, to now recognize it and be able to step into that even more fully and recognize that, oh, if I notice that, not that I need to diminish my own masculine, but coming from a life where I've had to really lean into that masculine more than I've had to lean into the feminine, it's nice to have that in my awareness now where I can intentionally be more in my feminine, especially in regard to business. And have that support still be there. And it's almost something like you just feel like Sabala's not around day after day, everything we do, but we also know he is.
Right.
Well, and it took some time, I think, for that to prove itself to be true, right? So it's not like we just met him, last week. We've been it's been like tried and true. Like it's really like, here's a space for you guys to do your thing. I'm going to illuminate the path and let you run with it. I believe in you. And he doesn't expect anything in return. And he doesn't have, and it's really like 100% that he doesn't have this like false pretense as to why he wants to help us. He doesn't want to help us because, he
It's okay, you
expects
can
something
say
in
it.
return.
Whether it's monetary or otherwise,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Other than
And oftentimes it's the otherwise part it causes a lot of frustration.
right, with the communication, the
Mhm.
upfront
With
communication,
the opposite sexes.
the integrity in the communication, and the ability to tell the truth, regardless of your voice shaking or how it might look to other people. And continuing to tell the truth um, throughout your exchanges with people, like how you show up in the, and I
like
understand
the
that there,
consistency.
yeah, I mean consistency, like what I posted to Instagram this morning. It's like I have just been really there has been a lot of masculine, like physical masculine energy showing up around us. And I, like you said, I think we have done so much of the pushing with our own masculine, holding space for ourselves. And also with the action oriented energy, and not leaning into not having the space, consistency, foundation, safety to be able to lean into more of the feminine energy. So having that masculine, what we could I almost want to move away from divine masculine, because it just feels like something about that doesn't feel like it doesn't feel real to me right now.
Like kind of like the words that are it's kind of some of those words are starting to lose their value because
Yes.
people are using them like
Yes.
interchangeably. Like
Yes.
like when people are like, it's epic.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Was it really
That's not-
epic though?
no,
No.
that was just kind of
Kind of cool.
kind of cool. Yeah, exactly. It was
It's
not
just kinda
Yeah.
cool.
epic
It
So
either.
was
people
not divine.
using that divine
Divine masculine, divine feminine.
label and then showing up differently.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
think that's what creates the ickiness and
Ooh,
comes
yeah.
back to the integrity
Mhm.
because like those people they're saying one thing and then they're showing us completely different.
Mhm.
And as time, again, with the time part, is like, although we know the time is just silly, but timing
Mhm.
is that when it is a fake front or a false front, time will tell.
For
So as
real.
long as you
Time
can
will out.
continue to
Mhm.
follow through,
Mhm.
then you'll start to see like, okay, who's truly in alignment here?
Yeah.
You know, who's truly in alignment.
So as women also, right, that piece for me, what I kind of felt like in these new spaces that we're kind of moving in, which is very interesting because another thing that like feels very tested, tried and true in this connection, because it comes back to connection, this connection that we've built with this space that he's created and held for us to do our thing, is also knowing that there's a return. Like it's okay. I see you. I see you flowing. I see you moving. I see you growing. I'm still going to be here and offer you that space for you to continue to do that. And I recognize the value and the growth that you are deepening, that's happening within you and yourself. So us bouncing, it's going to be very interesting to see the growth that's happening on the other side as we also tap
Yeah.
into that balance masculine feminine and hold space for somebody else to do the very same thing.
I'm
Mhm.
excited about it because we're actively in the midst of this flip in the way we've been working as like humans in this society.
Mhm.
Like, you know, probably somewhere and probably honestly like time and time again in the past, but like, you know, in my lifetime, it was more like probably, you know, our parents in the 60s really started to kind of change and go, oh, ladies, we need to do all the things. So then we took it and started running with it and doing all the things. And then we got to a point where again it was like that imbalance within.
Mhm.
And so so now I feel like what we're tasked to do right now, which is like a voluntary task because we want to, is to create and bring back the balance in the women that we experience in ourselves because we're actively working on ourselves and balancing that out so that we can ultimately be united again in a way that's cohesive, you know, unity. We don't want to get rid of the men.
I was
Lord,
wondering
please
if
don't
you were like
go.
Yeah.
tapping into my right
Is
here
that what you're
because
feeling?
something that you said that we experienced last week was you just had a flash, like a vision of a place. It
Mm.
might have been like the kind of the context of where you were experiencing is like neither here nor there, but you had a vision of a world where potentially where there were no men and it was just women and we were just doing what it is that we do and you were struck emotionally
I was
by
very
that.
deeply saddened by it
Mhm,
and
mhm.
interesting to me even because you'd think, you know, off the top if somebody's like, "Oh, world with just women. Woo woo, empowerment. Like we would love that."
Mhm.
But that's not how I felt about it at all. I
Mm,
felt deeply saddened, like to the point where Shay felt it because
mhm,
I didn't even speak to it until a few minutes later
mhm,
after the conversation had kind of wrapped up in that part.
mhm.
And I was like, that deeply saddens me that they're like, I don't want to imagine a world without men. And we kind of chuckled at first because we know I like to, you know, I'm like basically a 12-year-old boy sometimes. So so it was like, you know, the first thing is like, I don't want a world without men. And then but I was like, no, 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 it's not that though. It's like I feel deeply saddened that like that is even something that could potentially be a thing because of if we don't start now,
Right,
you know?
incorporating and working together collaboratively from our particular strength and spaces in order to bring about a new space. I was
Mhm,
pushed this weekend to be
mhm.
like, "You know what? I don't need not one of y'all. Not one of y'all. I done it up to this point. We have come together and then taking it collectively between the 3 of us and done it up to this point. You say you wanna show up and you wanna listen and you wanna hear and you wanna be supportive. One thing that and you want to be in integrity to those things and allow the feminine to blossom and to really be in a space of creation. And one thing that I was reminded in not throwing the match behind my back and setting everything on fire was that saying that somebody wants to do that, like having that be a want to, is not indicative of where they are on that path. I feel like we're at the very beginning of that. And I think in my mind, even though I didn't have it set as an expectation, there was an expectation there. And so in having that expectation, I was like, oh, wait, this is 101. I have to remember that.
Right.
And just because there's a station in life that one has achieved, that is not indicative of their emotional or spiritual,
capacity to support
or intelligence or any of those things.
No.
Yep. Nope. Not at all. And so it was very interesting for me to be able to just, okay, I'm going to take Sunday and just back up over here. I felt very much pushed, like told that there was a space for me to be one way, and then pushed into the space where I had to show up as more, meaning space for me to be feminine, but then not simultaneously, then it was like the rug was pulled out and I was pushed into the space of having to exhibit masculine. And then in exhibiting that masculine energy, also there's this other cultural element that happens with the skin color that also unearths some things in people.
Absolutely.
And I see that too. So it's multifold in that way. So not only was I felt like I was taken out of this space of where I was told that I was valued, right? And pushed into this space that I'm working to not show up in. I'm working to, I think I within our dynamic, I exhibit a lot of that masculine. And so I'm trying to ease into that. And then I was, because of subconscious triggering from another individual, push back into that masculine energy. And it doesn't work.
Nah. Do we need to start wearing signs? Oh, we can make t-shirts that it says it's co-creation, not procreation. I mean, there's room for that too. Also, we trying to co-create. We're not trying to procreate, y'all.
Not trying to procreate.
Don't get it twisted.
And you did mention earlier too about like the subconscious, because I think oftentimes I listened to a podcast this morning. It's the Danica Patrick.
Is that okay? Intense. I have a question. Is that Danica Patrick, like the race car driver?
Yeah.
It's the same one.
Yeah.
So she's bringing a whole other energy to the thing too.
Fully. She has great guests and stuff, and because of her platform, she pulls in very much so. You know what's cool too is sometimes I'll tune in, and she'll say something, and I was like, oh, I just said that to Shay yesterday, and I'm like, oh man.
Aligned.
I'm lined up with this woman that was a race car driver. I'm like, this is fabulous. But
and she's seen some shit.
Yeah, for sure. She had a doctor, I believe it was Ramani on, and they had a discussion about narcissism, and it was interesting.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
I bet it really was, because that word definitely came up and has come up, and it is something that we have enabled. We have enabled this behavior as well.
And I think there's some that are like consciously, they have a goal in mind, and it's like the long game, and they want to manipulate to get whatever it is that makes them feel like they're loved, right? That's what the behavior is about.
Right.
But then I think there are a lot of people who aren't aware that that's how they're navigating.
Yeah.
You know,
like they may have the genuine intention and every want to be that, to allow you to be in your feminine, to want to support. But like you said, this is 101. They're still learning how to do that. And by the way we walk, I feel like that's how we show them, you know, the way we navigate in those sort of circumstances and don't allow it in certain capacities. I feel like that's, like I said, teaching both sides, but I feel like that's how we catch them up, for lack of
but and then also simultaneously learn and we're not above learning. And there were some spaces that were really tender for me that came up that I had to sit with, and then still in some capacity sitting with. And as as kind of the shape of the lesson, like as it unfolds, um, rolls out kind of in front of me, and I can kind of see like these spaces that need attention on my behalf in order to show up in a way that I don't want to, I'm not one given to say supposed to, but this role that I feel like I'm kind of taking on as I ease into who it is that I naturally am. I need to pay attention to these things. And I too am not above. Yes, we reflect back, but somebody else is also simultaneously reflecting back to me things that I need to look at as they project as
Both
well.
sides.
Both sides. So I'm not above. It wasn't like the, you need to catch up. You need to be over
Not
here.
at all. We're learning. We're taking so much from that.
Like a full
It's
exchange.
like you said, activating.
Yes.
We've brought that up several times in those sort of exchanges.
Mhm.
And I think that's 100% what it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Activating on both halves. Our activation just seems to be like over here, and the ability to boom in a minute, like, oh, okay, whoa. There's a lot to learn from this. I need to sit with myself for a minute over here and just be quiet, and also take stock of some things that are happening around me and check ways that I'm maybe not showing up the way that I want to show up, and the way that is intrinsically me, like in my identity, and not letting anybody else's behavior take me out of my own pocket.
It's something right now that just came up for me that reminds me how much work that I continuously am doing to learn and grow and understand things more fully, is that even the word narcissist, where does when you hear narcissism or narcissist, what gender comes to mind first?
Male.
Right? But that's not, they're not, that
not
goes
the
both
case.
ways.
Absolutely.
Right? And so there are plenty of, I meant to look it up and see female narcissists out there, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of us out there. Not me, but and so it's interesting, even that it reminds me, because when that pops up first, I'm like, oh, you need to look into that, Elizabeth, because the word is not gender specific,
right?
But we definitely do lean toward pinning the male
Yeah.
on narcissism, for sure.
I mean, and let's be honest, that segues into a whole other thing. I think they take the fall for so much,
a lot,
that we as females do not take responsibility for. So there is also simultaneously a reckoning in regards to our behavior and how we have shown up, and how we have also like given over so much of our power instead of standing in it and realizing that we don't need to show up as them. We need to just show up as us, and also allow them to do the same.
Right.
Giving them space to do the same. We are not the same.
I was checking in with myself listening to that podcast, because the doctor was talking about, kind of like checklists of narcissism behavior, what to look for. And I was like, is that me? Do I do that? So I'm like checking in the whole way. And then at the end, I was like, well, I mean, I'm checking in. So right there says that I'm not, because I can see, I'm looking at it.
Yes.
Like,
I mean, I think I've heard maybe Busy say before, and I want to give credit, right? But also it might not have been her, but a true narcissist doesn't acknowledge that they are a narcissist. So that you are even looking into and trying to identify, like seeing if you share qualities with one is like the first indicator that you are not.
Yeah. So I was like, whew, because like throughout I was like, oh my gosh, could that be? And I was like, no, I think I'm in the clear here on this one. Yeah.
Yeah. And we mentioned consciousness earlier and how that word has kind of been thrown out a lot. Do either of you guys feel like that with the term narcissist? I feel like there's been
with
this kind of like trend or this kind of wave.
Well, we just like to label. We want to label everything and put a label on everything and put everything in a box and be like, this is what it looks like and this is how it shows up. So when we have had many a discussions about this, why the design is that way, why you would label something. And that is so I mean, the if you were to give it a negative connotation, why you would label something is so that when it shows up in real life, because it shows up in all of these other ways, you don't recognize it. You don't know what it is that you're looking at, because you're looking at this dictionary definition that has been thrown out, loosely used, right? And so when it shows up and you're interacting with it, you don't know that that's the thing,
Right. Because
right?
it doesn't fit within that box of description.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
it might be a different aspect of
Right.
it that you hadn't been defined for you previously. And
Right.
so you're like, well, this must not be it, because it
This
doesn't
can't
go
be
into
it.
this
It doesn't look
box.
like XYZ that they've
Yeah.
shown me on Law and Order or whatever TV show. Dun dun, right?
Dun-dun.
As they show up. No, it's like out here is just, I mean, people are people. We show up in all different ways. That's why this
Yeah.
identity politics nonsense is such a mess.
Oh, all the complexities
Mhm.
of a human.
Mhm.
I mean,
Everybody out there just trying to put each other in boxes.
Right?
Mhm.
Right? And expect for the expectation, I mean, just throw it out the window. Let's just be open to how people show up. And that is, and then once we create space, all of us, not just masculine or feminine, once we create space for each of us to show up in the way that we can most authentically show up, then we can choose who we want to fuck with. Right?
That's the thing. The showing up, not just talking about it.
Yeah.
You gotta do it.
Got to do it.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys.
Yes.
Of the words that we have been kind of circling around and through that seem to be kind of weaving themselves, these words, into our consciousness, like our actual consciousness, like our actual awareness and brains: boundaries, integrity, deception, manipulation, attraction, reflection. If you were like just to sit right there, just like in your being, and take a deep breath, what word comes most to the forefront in what we have kind of been moving through in the past 2 weeks?
Boundaries.
Okay.
That came first to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. But also for me, it's like, I don't know what it is like for me yet. I don't know. I think those boundaries are like showing themselves in like different ways.
And I would say the immediate follow-up for me would be reflection.
You need more. Do you need more think time?
I
Wait
need
a
so much
second.
think
Wait,
time.
wait,
Okay.
wait a second. Do you really need more think time?
No, I need more time for reflection to feel more than think. I need to feel it, and I need to understand me around that feeling. And so when I pull and I can be solo doing that, there's no distractions or things that could lead me, in one direction or another. It's just sitting with, reflecting on how I felt about certain interactions and why I feel that way. And then creating boundaries around it. Yeah. Yeah.
What does that even mean? What do boundaries mean to you?
That's boundaries to me are how you show other people. You show other people how to treat you through the boundaries that you set.
Sure.
That's to me the biggest piece.
That's an entire, like, honestly, that's a whole go-to webinar about how to build. That's a whole course. Particularly, I mean, for both sexes, but we tend to work most specifically with women.
Yeah.
Right? Closely right now with women. Openly closely right now, a working relationship with women. Our relationships with the men that are in our circles, it's an unofficial, like, working relationship that's happening, right? Just through interaction.
Like on the down low.
Right.
I feel like.
Right.
Right now.
Right
I feel like
now.
they're coming.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They're rising.
So how
in
would
our
you,
circle.
Yes, in our circle, definitely. How would you, is there a quick and dirty way to establish boundaries?
Quick and dirty. That's a good question.
Maybe after you've had some trial and error at it, but I feel like for me, a lot of learning what boundaries I needed were through the contrast of not having any. It wasn't something that was taught as a kid. It was more like, no, you people please. And there are no boundaries. Like, you make everybody happy, and that's top priority. It wasn't through realizing that how much that takes away from me in my life and is, not capable of doing all the things that I need to do if those boundaries aren't laid.
So having that foundation of self-worth,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
getting that
Putting yourself
first.
first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Recognizing that you
Soulfish.
are important enough to come first.
Say that again, Elizabeth.
Soulfish.
Define it. What does that mean?
It is a takeoff of selfish, right? So, selfish has that connotation of being careless or being lack of care for others. So doing for you, regardless of how others feel or respond. Soulfish is you're doing things for you so that you can benefit us and others. So soulfish is saying no when you're tired, resting, and then being able to recharge your own battery so that we all succeed there.
Right. So that you can show up better.
Yeah.
Right. And show up only meaning like you can embody the truest and most authentic essence of who you are in your interactions with other people. Right. So boundaries. I wanted to touch on that a little bit more because I think that there are a lot of people out there who play it real loose with the boundaries and they also don't know how to implement them. Right. And I think that honestly, a lot of that comes from the movement as we integrate and find ourselves more in touch with our bodies and how things show up and how we feel about things and where they show up in the body. There's a lot of, I say it all the time. Your body keeps the score. It's an entire book. Your body knows.
And a good one.
Yes, exactly.
Check it out.
But you have to be in your body in order to lean into your intuition and how these different feelings and your interactions, how your interactions with them show up in the body.
Do y'all think
that you can know where the boundaries need to be laid?
Exactly.
Because that's the messaging that is telling you where that boundary needs to be
How
firm it needs to be.
Is it in my 4th chakra? Is it in my 6th chakra? Most of the time it's going to be in my 2nd chakra. Scorpio, Cancer, and Aries all in one. Yeah, we're out here.
Do y'all think that there is a time to reevaluate boundaries that you've set?
Absolutely.
Always.
Yeah.
For me, it's usually when the contrast comes up and I'm like, hold on, like I'm being too drained or I didn't like that interaction. And then the reflection of, well, what can I lay or what could I say or what could I do to prevent that from happening again?
You know what's really interesting about that is mine is the opposite. I'm being charged with, yes, maintaining those over there, but also like softening in this in regards to another space, like understanding that it's like fence, but also like how can I ask somebody else to maintain boundaries but also simultaneously let their guard down, and I'm not doing the same. That's not fair.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to show up in a way where there are clear distinctions in my relationships with people out there and how I'm showing up in those relationships. And then also showing up in these other relationships that are decidedly more intimate in a way that our exchange is even. And so there's like, again, I want to be in my feminine. I really do. I want to feel the feelings. Like I'm in that place right now where I want to feel the feelings. I want to know what's there, but it is difficult and I think that men want to work with us in that regard. They want that from us, I think, more than anything, but that requires a certain showing up and a foundation and holding space and creating that container for us to lean into that and not doing this thing.
The push-pull.
I'm going to give it to you, but then I'm going to take it out. I'm going to give it to you. And that is the most manipulative. And for me, again, right now, because I have been in this space where there is a fence around, man, that fence goes up like
barbed wire,
the whole thing. All the alarms go off, everything goes off, and it makes it a little bit. One thing that it actually did for me, I think this weekend, having that exchange was that, it did illuminate some other spaces where, even though they might not be talking all the lingo, using all the language, there is action. This is that action oriented energy. There is action behind a true transformation that is I think attempting to come through in a particular relationship in my life, right? So I have the juxtaposition of this piece over here where there's a lot of talk around wanting to do this, but I'm not seeing the action behind it, or there's an opportunity to present that action, and it was subpar, right? And so my mind is like, well, am I seeing this anywhere else? Oh shit, I am. And I have not been giving credit to that.
That's a great question to ask
Yeah.
yourself too.
Yeah. Let me see if I am seeing it. Let me check myself and make sure that I'm not missing it because of what it looks like, what I have been told it's supposed to look like, right? And instead I'm in my body and I'm checking myself and I'm feeling these feelings, and my intuition is saying XYZ about the present situation. And it's causing me, again, like I said, to reflect on these other right? To reflect and shed light on these other relationships, exchanges, collaborations, co-creations that are happening, and be like, but wait, this one is like and doesn't look like what Eckhart Tolle or Jordan Peterson or Oprah or any of these other people are saying that it's supposed to look like, but it sure does feel like this over here. And I think, yeah, it's
And
nice.
that trumps all to me. How that feels. I feel like that's the biggest truth there is. You know, it's really easy to overthink things and to come up with a mental solution that, I mean, is so far off base.
So far off, you just made that shit up.
Yeah.
Literally just made some shit up based on some preconceived notions or some ideas. One of the most powerful things that I've ever heard somebody say to me was to admit that they were curious and suspicious. That is everything that I needed to know, because that means that you're going to go out there, you're going to look at something, and you're going to create this entire scenario in your brain about what you think that thing is that's happening, as opposed to really feeling into it and gathering the information.
I feel like
putting girl, it wasn't you.
I know.
It's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
This person has made up an entire movie, I guarantee you, about what they think is happening.
Yeah.
Yep. So we have to watch that and really be mindful of what is actually happening present in the moment.
Yes.
And base our decisions, our choices on what is being presented to us, not the expectation or not the potential.
It's just
right, the potential. We feel we care deeply about how others feel.
Sure.
We have negative zero fucks about what other people think.
Yeah. That's yep.
I mean, gosh, how long has it taken to get to that point?
Like yesterday, till yesterday. So couple 3-4 decades. Something like that.
41 years, 6 months, and
18 days.
That's right. It's so true. Life ain't a track meet, it's a marathon.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we're just out here running and trying to keep pace. And
although sometimes we're jumping them hurdles, though, overcoming obstacles left and right,
constantly. Always. I mean, well, that's not true. I feel like we hit our stride a little bit, and then there's another lesson to be learned, and
so they'll come and they'll set up the hurdles.
Yeah.
We're still moving along.
Yes,
right.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not, I mean, it's practice.
Yeah.
It is practice. And I feel so, I'm like grateful for the contrast. I'm really starting to get to a point where in the midst of the real challenging moments, whether it's conversation or, whatever the case may be, I'm finding myself like, even when I'm far from joy, I do not like this. I'm really like biting
In
my
opposition.
tongue, like
Mhm.
knowing that I just need to hold off for a second, and but recognizing in those moments that the value of that moment and where
Yeah.
it's going to take me, what lesson I'm going to learn from it, how it's going to affect my perspective, and being grateful for that in the moment. It's like my whole new, it's my new flex, y'all.
And even if you don't see the lesson, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah, because
sometimes I'm not
in the
quite
midst
sure.
of that muck, it might
Mhm.
just suck.
Yeah.
And even in that moment of it just being awful, just knowing that it's still serving something bigger.
Right.
Like me last Thursday. I was in the midst of like a sloppy, messy, awful, and
Sloppy, messy, awful.
Oh my
like that
God.
was my day.
Yeah.
But I knew that it was just bringing stuff up for a bigger purpose.
Man,
Mhm.
and
You
it's
know.
temporary.
Yeah.
It's not a fixed way of being unless your mind is fixed
Yep.
in that way.
Oh, and that bringing up to go out, that's been popping
and
up a
out.
lot lately.
Up and out.
Yeah, up and out. So those things that pop up where you're like, I did so much work on this.
Why is it
Like,
coming here again? Why is it
it so
visiting?
familiar and it came back again? And I've worked so hard on trying not to get to this place. And yet here it is again. And then I'll get nice reminders here and there from whatever I'm listening to and whatnot. That's how they come through to me. They'll come through like a song on the radio, a conversation with a stranger, a podcast I watch, and they'll all say the same thing, which is fascinating to me.
Well, I think there's a piece of that, and those things don't go away. You just
Mhm.
get better at managing them.
And the
Right.
awareness, of
Yeah.
catching it,
Yeah.
being alert
Mhm.
to them.
Yeah. Like, oh, there it is.
Oh, I see that.
Bitch, I don't engage in that tomfoolery.
I feel like those little
Mhm.
guiding lights are there for
Mhm.
everybody.
Absolutely.
I don't think we're any special in that. I think it's just a matter of having the awareness to be able to recognize when they're there
Mhm.
and the trust that that is the guidance.
Absolutely. I want to ask you in particular, because I think that you have really kind of put some work into navigating, coming into understanding of what it is that we're experiencing right now in the collective, like kind of what is rippling. And I realize I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but you know how it is. What is happening? What are we transitioning into in this particular season?
Like big picture.
Yeah. Here,
I
you can
think
have
all
this.
I think all of this is this can get like really big, really broad, but I
course.
think all of this is a really big shift as society. We're moving away from big corporations. Astrology mimics all of this, but we're seeing it in politics. We're seeing it in everywhere externally. Big corporations are losing power. People are waking up, whatever your definition of that is. They're having more awareness. They're recognizing more of their own personal power. And I feel like it is so big picture. We kind of come back to where we came from. We're working within our own communities. When we need something, we don't necessarily hop to Walmart or Target because we know somebody within our own community that makes that. We have a better balance of masculine and feminine and get to kind of stay in those roles so that we're all in more flow, in more efficiency. And I feel like that's more flow and more working in the way that we're wired and built and created to work. I feel like we really got into commercialism and making things convenient and quick, microwave mentality. And now we're in that messy stage of like breaking all of that down and shifting. And really, it is a rewilding. It's getting back to nature because that connection makes everything easier. Makes it easier to hear yourself, makes it easier to know where you're supposed to go next.
Well, and it's essential.
Yeah, it is. It's 100% essential. But yeah, I think big picture, that's what we're getting back to, is kind of what we did a long, long, long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
And okay, I have one more question because I think that this will help kind of illustrate really what's happening. What are we moving from, and then what are we moving into?
We're moving into more power, more self-power. And I feel like we're 100% moving away from giving that away in every aspect. I mean, the medical industry, we were taught when you feel bad, go to a doctor. They've got the answers. You know, with everything going on now, people are waking up like, well, do they have the answers? Some people say they do, some people say they don't. Like, in reality, we have those answers, and more so than any other person can tell us, no matter what degree or coat they're wearing. And so I think a big part of that is, and not just in the medical realm, but in every way, our food, our education, in every way, we're taking that power back, male and female. I think that's what it's about. Because ultimately, if we create that, I feel and I know that that's what it's doing. Because if we have that, if we can shift society into all of that, the more balance of masculine, feminine, more community, that creates more flow for everybody.
How do you know that?
Because we see it.
Okay.
You know, like within our community, it's already happening. Within us, we've already had to kind of take those beginning steps. You know, like as hard as it is to not work a 9 to 5 and to, you know, maybe take a gamble on what my income's going to look like. I know that's not the way we're structured to live. And so as hard of a thing as that can be to make that transition, the other end of it, and I've been showed time and time again, the other end of it of trust, faith, and flow brings more gifts than anything on the other end of the spectrum could.
How are you shown that?
I'm
How
still
does
here.
that show? Right.
100%.
Yeah, and you have the things that you need in order to live.
Yeah.
It's been a rough couple of weeks. Yeah. It's been a rough kind of go, because it does take commitment, courage, faith, connection,
a lot of it.
community.
Community is a big piece, and recognizing that we are built to live in that community, and that's part, I feel like, of taking that power back, like as an individual, but also as a community, as a team. You know, we talk about the 3 of us and how the power of 3 and the triangle is the strongest shape, and how even though we're really confident in our own gifts, if we have to, you know, if somebody's schedule is off or busy and we've got to show up 2 at a time or 1 at a time, we can get the job done, but it feels different. You know, it feels so much more secure. I love the word you put with it. What was it? Spiritual security? When we all 3 of us are together. I feel like that ripple effects into, you know, more things than just the spiritual nature. You know, through this transition of the physical society, that the structure that we've had falling apart, that's going to be messy. It already is messy, and it's probably going to get messier.
Oh, for sure.
That's probably what this whole summer is going to be about.
Man, and I think I hear that, and there is a call within me, like there's a churning of all of that, and like the sorting of the masculine and feminine, and part of that illumination is understanding and kind of anticipating that messiness and wanting to go and get up next to a real man.
That can have foundation for you, that can have some steadiness when the world is so shaky.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm Harvey's that to a T. You know, he is steady, and that's one thing I am so grateful for.
That's really
and when
awesome.
you brought up certain experiences over the weekend and the contrast, like it does, you know, it shines lights other places, and contrast brings clarity. Even if you thought you were already clear, it's going to show you, you know, like be a little bit more detailed, or, you know,
dial it all the way in. Be very clear about what it is that you want.
You're probably like, Harvey, I already knew, but also it's looking real good for you out here.
Just yesterday when I was ready to burn Walmart down, I was like, he was there, and I was like, thank you for being here. Thank you for waiting. I was like, I'm having a real big issue with men right now, but I love you, and I'm grateful for you. It's like, don't let any of this think that I don't appreciate him, because he does a lot.
Oh man,
you said something that made me think, and then I forgot. You peeked over at me and said something.
It'll come back.
But yeah, finding the foundation, and I feel like within us 3, that's a piece too. You know, knowing that that's coming, and still making sure that we show up multiple times a week together. You know, we're prepared for that.
Yeah.
And things may get shaky, but we've got each other to lean into.
See, we are prepared.
It matters to her. It matters to me too, so that we can create the space for us to make the things, but also, gosh, I just really live for being present and allowing what is supposed to be birth, whatever is. supposed to be created to be created. And so a little bit of chaos is nice for that. And
Gotta
it's
stir
not
some
really,
shit up.
you got to stir it up in order to see what really is going to shake out and what's going to settle. And I
Mhm.
think, at least in my energy, that's what I tend to do. Just like as nature of
No.
being, it's
Really?
so weird. So I felt like it was I felt honestly like Saturday was a little premature in that. Like I felt like it came on a little bit sooner, but I think we're getting the lessons a lot faster. Things are coming in faster.
Yeah.
And so I think if anything, like I felt a little taken aback by, oh, it's already going to happen right now. We're going to break it down all the way right now.
But can we take that as a compliment?
Absolutely.
Because
we're
I
ready
do.
for it
Yeah,
now.
Mhm.
because it means we can hold it. It means we
Mhm.
can process it. It means we have the tools to work through it.
Mhm.
It means we can show up to give and be examples of what they need,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
continue forging ahead the way we do.
Right. Exactly. What is it? You say create it and move through it. What is it?
The muckiness, this
The
transition
density
of
of this space that
Mhm.
we're occupying right now
Yeah.
in time here together as
and everybody going through their own shit
I mean
and
collective
projecting
trauma.
that shit
Whew.
out.
We're dealing
Like-
with multiple things right now. We're dealing with our present lifetime trauma coming up, but we are also dealing with our collective shared trauma from other lifetimes as well, because we've experienced this before, most likely in our monads or our groups that we are forming right now together. That's why there's a familiarity that it's like, do I know you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have we
it
met
might not
before?
be right. It might not be here right now, right here in this moment. We know each other, but we know each other, our soul essence, our soul signature from another time. And we have been at this, I like it's almost like a nexus point of change previously. And it's like we make strides, but we aren't able um to to flip the script all the way into the newer way of being. We have so much galactic and guide help right now with us. I mean, you just look at, like you said, you look at the astrology and it's all over the place, the assistance there. But also so we are also moving through the fear of failure in regards to being at this point before as well. And that collective feeling as the trauma comes up trauma comes up for us to release it around these ideals that we have about how we show up and how we maybe were working together and it didn't work. We lost a lot of people. We lost a lot of I don't want to say souls because they just they're coming back into play, but we lost a lot of lives and experienced a lot of loss and a lot of really painful loss. And so those collective memories are also coming up and those are at play as well. So when we're thinking about approaching somebody or how they may react to our presence, it's multifold, multifaceted, in that yes, they are showing up in the way that they're showing up, but they're also showing up as like every other experience that they've had in regards to lifetimes, and they don't even know it. So that when we're talking about the work that we do spiritually, the up here, super woo woo, as I was described in an astrology reading that I was listening to this weekend, where this bitch like just nailed my heart and had me in tears. I was like, golly, she just sung my whole life with that song. I was reminded that holding that spiritual torch and that light for people, maintaining the light, even in spite of all of that collective nonsense that's happening within them as it comes up and out and comes up and out. Like you said, it's coming up so that it can come out. Being those things, the fruit of the spirit, and being living examples of that, and also allowing ourselves the grace, right? For when maybe we do stumble, maybe we do like have to take a knee for a second and regroup and Mercury, gain some clarity around a situation. Offering that for other people as well is essential. And also when we're erecting those boundaries and maintaining those boundaries, simultaneously understanding that you don't have to put up with nobody's bullshit either. I mean, that, like, let's be real.
Yeah, that first and foremost, because I feel like a lot of us grew up, like with me, the people pleasing. Like, that's a big piece.
You're just supposed to sit there and take it.
Yeah.
And just be
and
in
how
this,
can I help them?
Yeah.
Like, even if it's at my expense.
Right.
How can I fix this?
Right.
How can I fix this person?
Man,
this situation?
God, getting past the fix 'em part.
Oof. That's a tricky one.
Girl, you ain't got to be out there fixing nobody, not one person.
Other than yourself.
Other than yourself. You worry about your own eyebrows. You sit down. It's written on my mirror right now. Sit down. Worry about yourself. Worry about your own eyebrows.
That reflection
Coast.
piece.
I mean,
Piece.
the pieced. I mean, that too. It's such a piece of
And
piece.
coast. Yes. I'm glad you used coast.
Coasting matters. I was going through a particular, we have talked about this before, but I tend to see pretty far out. And in my exchanges with people, I can see far out, and I can also get hints on what prior lifetimes we've had together. And so what things were like, and then why this person, at least initially, seems to be showing up in my life. And so I'll be like, all right, let's do it.
And they're like,
like, oh, wait, how do you wait? Okay. I'm like, so at first I didn't recognize that that's really what was happening. Like, I'm seeing already what already exists out there on that timeline that we have chosen together, and not allowing that person to experience. I'm robbing them of the experience of leaning into whatever it was. And I was doing this with a particular person who I have a very, very strong past life connection with. And in tears often with these two about, like, what do I even do about it? And Elizabeth just hit me with, like, the arm out lack. Just coast. That's all we got to do is coast. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Just like big body coast. Don't even have to worry about it. Just put on some Isley Brothers and just, like, ride out.
I'm like, girl, just hop in the back. I got you.
I know, just ride it out. And so a lot of that is settling into not having to, what also, in addition to what you're saying and where we're at collectively, a lot of it is also, okay, I'm going to settle in and allow Spirit, allow God, allow Yeshua, allow my guides to take the lead. I'm only going to show up when and where I feel that obligatory pull from Spirit, not from the world. And to understand, have leaned in enough to your own identity to understand what that feels like in the body, the difference between your obligation to the world and your connection to Spirit and being led in that way.
They love it too. They get so excited.
So excited.
When you recognize the thing.
It's like real class. Like, mine are like, bitch, yes, she done got it. She done got it. And then sometimes when I be moving the opposite direction, I can, like, actually physically see them like this.
Oh goodness, here she go again.
Here she go
again.
She gonna have to go. You see that? Did you see that? She gonna have to do it again. I know. I already told you. I already told you she wasn't done with that lesson. Let's watch. Let's see what she does.
Grab the popcorn.
Grab the popcorn. It's about to be an adventure. It's adventure time, everybody.
Yeah, and they do listen. So be specific. That's what's been coming up lately. Is they're like,
talk about that a little bit.
I've recognized. I'm starting to really see the connection of the thing, like manifestation, right? So having been able to, over time, with a lot of practice and self-reflection, sitting with myself, really understanding what it is that I want. And then what had happened was, though, I sort of loosely were throwing out some things here and there, not very well defined, not extremely specific, and just kind of here and there. I want romance, I want this, I want that. And then what's happened over the past few weeks have been like,
I only laugh because hold on.
You do it. No, say it because I know it works.
How it's showing up is like right here. And then like romance is over here. And then stability is right here.
Oh my God.
And then this is over here. This piece is over here. What you didn't do is like wrap that shit up in like one bowl and be like, I would also like it to like even appear which, appearances,
Yeah.
but it helps to like develop the feeling, and then the feeling helps to develop the frequency around how you feel about the thing.
Which is
Right.
what
And
brings
then-
it in.
It
exactly.
is,
The
yeah.
match to the frequency is
Yeah.
what draws the thing to you. So creating that container,
Right.
right, for all of those things and dumping it in there, what you did was like,
It's
glitter.
And then now I'm getting sprinkled
Yes.
with glitter.
Yes.
It's just like coming from every direction. I'm like,
Yes.
this is great. And also, hold on, I need to have another talk with you guys. I need to have another talk with you guys. And also, thank you,
Mhm.
thank you,
Mhm.
thank you.
Mhm.
I see you. I feel it. I love it. Please don't stop. I know
Oh,
you're here
man.
for me. I know I got this.
It's so funny that I think we all had that same lesson in like a different way. The other night, before I walked y'all through like how, kind of how I process information or when I want an answer. It's very simple. Be in a quiet place before you go to bed. Genuinely quiet your mind and have a conversation. Prayer is just a conversation. So having a conversation with my selected members of my squad, my team that I know, show up for me about what it is that I want. And like how I'm supposed to show up. And so what I did was I'm laying in bed and I'm having like a full on, we went to church. I'm laying in bed and we went to church and they were like, girl, yes. Yeah, we hear you. That's right. Tell us all about it. What else? What else you got? Okay. Yeah. Oh no, you're going to have to sit back and think about that one for a second. And then we're going to, okay. Yeah, we heard you. We hear you about that. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to go to bed and I need some answers. I want some answers around some things. And the first question that I asked was, but does he really like me though? And they were like, I know she didn't. She done prayed the whole church down. And then this is what she asked for.
Again?
We already told you.
A few times.
A few times. We done told you, and then we showed your ass several times. And so what ended up happening, like in a split second, I was like, I renege, I roll it back. Please forgive me. I forgot we're thinking bigger out here. Please scratch that from the record. Legitimate real life conversation prayers that are happening in my head. Scratch that from the record. What I would really like to know is the best way for me to move forward with my actions over the next 2 days. Like, give me the blueprint, lay it out for me. Tell me how I can best move with integrity on your behalf as an embodiment of the light. Those are two very different prayers. And when I prayed that, I mean, I told y'all it was like download from 10 to 4 o'clock in the morning with my full on eyes, like, flickering the whole time. Had to woke myself up in the middle of the night. Not in the middle of the night, 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, okay, listen, I also need to sleep. So can we shut this down for a little bit? Because that was a lot. Okay. And as soon as I asked for that, frank prayers, y'all, they go a long way. As soon as I asked for that, head out, pillow down, cooler than the other side of the pillow. Woke up at 6:30 and was like, I have all the answers.
Get a text.
Yep.
I know what to do.
I know what to do. They told me.
It's
So
fun
being
to-
very specific matters a lot. And also upgrading your wants, upgrading what it is that you want matters so much too, because they want nothing more than to like, I have one particular guide who really just wants to go out there and get it. And I know this very specifically about this soul. Just tell me what it is and go out there. I'll get it. I don't have any emotions around these things. I don't have any feelings of inadequacy around these things that are blocking me from it. So I'm gonna go get it. You just tell me what it is that you need, but also you better be specific, because I'm gonna bring you the thing that you asked for, and you're gonna have to work with that thing, how it shows up. And sometimes you don't want that. You think you do. So I'm gonna go get it and I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna give it to you. I don't have to say shit, because you're going to have to walk through it after I bring it to you.
Mhm.
And then you'll get more specific about what it is that you are actually
Ooh,
wanting.
it's gonna be so.
And that's how they do it, whether you're asking intentionally or
Mhm.
you're asking subconsciously.
Mhm.
Right.
If you don't have that awareness of the thoughts, you're
Yes.
still asking.
Oof.
So that's a real good point. Two things I was thinking of is one is the container, like
Mhm.
asking, I want to be the container through which you work today. Like let me be what like you experience through my human,
Mhm.
and making sure that's clear. And then something about what you just never mind. I'll just stop right there.
I
It'll
feel
come
like
back
that was
around.
really
That's just
good.
what
That's
happens.
really
Yeah.
good. All of
Yeah.
it's good. The container, cleaning up the container matters. So when you get ready to manifest, and again, that's one of those words that's like blah blah blah, manifest blah. Everybody's saying all the things. Like it is a return to what we have known in the past. This is prayer.
Oh, the thoughts, right?
Okay.
Being real, making sure that you're practicing enough to get that quiet mind, that clarity in your mind, because sometimes what'll happen is those thoughts and wishes that you want, are running off anyway.
Yes.
And
But if
building what
you're
you don't
not
want.
building
Yes.
what you don't want, and if you don't catch that, and be specific, and then I'll be in my car like just straight talking.
Mhm.
You're gonna pass me by and be like, "Oh, she must be rocking to a song," and I'm like, "No, just having a conversation with my guides."
We're having a real frank one
Telling
over
them
here.
that my bad. I thank you for bringing this. It's just my bad. I should have been real clear on A, B, C, and D, and so we could come back around, get exactly the thing.
Get exactly the thing. Go send me out. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play.
Yeah, exactly.
The veil is very thin as well. And so because we are working to release so much trauma and the programming and the templating and the preconceived ideas and notions around so much in regards to our truly spiritual nature, like how we show up as souls. And so as that falls away, our ability to imagine and create with what seems so far away with spirit before is now like up close and personal. It's like real time. And also it's real time, like happening right here, almost in the moment, almost simultaneously. Be careful about what you ask for and who you ask to show up, because chances are you're going to see that person, or you're going to have an exchange with that person, other than one person who blocks me like all the time, but that's fine. I'm okay with it. Anybody else, I feel pretty confident that, like, if I was to give some intention behind and there was a purpose behind that, they seem to just be appearing. So being mindful of that, but also like having these little magical moments that seem to be breaking through into our reality with it's almost like the communication, right? You were talking about this coming through in the songs and the music and interactions with people and like sending messages that way. And also, like, I have had some things happen here recently, like the dreaming with the knocking.
Yeah.
Straight up like that. Like, who's at my door? Oh, it's just me, Jesus. I'm here to tell you some things. Like, really, like waking up with this like a real feeling that something is there. And some of y'all are getting trolled by some nonsense out there, and you think it's your thoughts, and it's not. Identity truly helps to, and as we release the trauma and release all of these programming, templating, all of these things that I said, and you get down to the truest identity of who you are, it really helps with discernment and being able to identify what thoughts are your own and what thoughts are of the collective, and what thoughts don't have shit to do with you at all. It's just some nonsense being put on top of you with that very thin veil. So some of you are out there working with some energies that you honestly have no business working with. I'm just going to go ahead and toss that out there. And also, the medicine is very strong. Pace yourself. There's a reason why we have dosages of medicine. And that's a whole other podcast, I think, with people as we are becoming woke and conscious and manifesting and all these buzzwords that come around this, and soul retrieval and activations and all of this stuff that's happening out there. And people are grasping onto it and like taking it on. Some of y'all are powerful as fuck. And also, one, don't know it. Two, don't know what you're doing. So one, be mindful of where you get your medicine. Two, allow the medicine to work.
Integrate.
Mm-hmm. Give it time, and
It does
don't
take
OD.
time.
That spiritual OD is like no other OD out here. They will take you to a place that you don't want to revisit.
Man, it does the time, like having patience to sit and allow the things to integrate as they come in is so important. And even over the last year, like I think of the things that I've done, like a couple things that I've done here and there, that in the moment I was like, I know this is a big deal and I know it's going to be helpful, but then it's like, it shows itself like 6 months later. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was a huge thing I did. Like I didn't even realize the gravity of the importance of it. Like as I was doing, I was just like, I'm just going to show up because this sounds like something I need to do. And I'm going to follow that feeling. And then later I'm like, wow, that was extremely impactful, like in a fabulous way, because I'm starting to be able to really sift through that muck, and get much more clear understanding of how this all works. And it is a lot of fun.
It is a lot
like
of
that's
fun.
what I'm coming up with more than anything lately, is just how much fun and excitement there is in all these different aspects of us being people during this time in life, and how great it is to be here with y'all.
I mean, it really is really special.
It's
really
pretty
special
dang special
and difficult to explain.
Very much so.
So we just spend a lot of time showing and telling. And so we have been living it in the events that we do through Spiritualish Collective and through the movement and through our exchanges with people. And so now what people are witnessing is us showing that. We've been talking about it person to person, and so if you want to know what we do, it's really good that you tap into like what it is that we do and like show up. It's good. Showing up is good. Get in here.
Yeah, it's an experience to be had more than a more than a description to be given.
Right. And so I feel very much tasked with like, that is very true. But also in order to bridge that gap, we absolutely need to be able to verbalize what it is that we do.
Right.
Right. It's essential because there are people out here who just clearly don't understand.
Right. We got to get the sales pitch. I was able to drop a good solid sales pitch at the same spot, different person who was inquiring, and I was able to really
I think you do
it
honestly,
very well.
When we are ready to do the things that are coming to us, that we know that are coming to us in preparation for that, and I've said this from the beginning, you're like, what is it that I do? What value do I bring? What is that? I'm like, being able to tell with clarity and focus and succinctly what it is that we do is quite the talent. I mean, that I realized that I just put LizzyB tells the people, and it seems like it's, it could come across as minimizing, but it's huge because when you were gone Saturday and we were tasked with and put on the spot with, like, well, what is it that you do? First of all, I don't respond that way.
With a big chest.
With a big, right? What is it that you do? I was longing for you. I was like, I wish I could just flip it over to Elizabeth because you do such a good job of verbalizing, because it was an experience that you had. I think this is why you have experienced it without having the vision to begin with. So it's something that you have taken in and really processed like over time, and then being able to integrate that and then communicate it, translate it, and then communicate it to people who might be a little bit more out of touch with that is a gift to us.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it is
Thanks.
huge.
I like to simplify it. Thank you. Yeah, I like to simplify it, and I also feel like I enjoy the I enjoy the task of presenting it to someone who is not at all interested in this at all, or may not even believe in this woo woo stuff to begin with, right?
Right.
And then like kind of cater it and always authentically, right? I'm never going to be dishonest, but I can sort of, and I don't know if cater is the right word for it, but phrase it to fit my audience, right?
Mhm.
And I thank my crazy Cajun dad for that, because I've had to learn with him. He and I he was an older man when I was born, so we've had a lot of gap in generation and just like a lot of things, so we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but I've learned how with him to be able to get a point across to him, how to present it to him in a way that's respectful, that he'll perceive it and accept it.
So a 6-year-old and a 66-year-old.
6-year-old and a girl, 80-year-old. Yeah, I have to be able to explain it to both a 6-year-old and an 83-year-old.
Yep.
And also, I oftentimes need things explained to me as if I were a 3-year-old. So yeah, so I like to be able to do that. I was feeling, y'all, it's interesting how when we're apart, we're not really ever apart.
Yeah.
Because I left because I had to go do some pet care rounds, and it was like as soon as I landed at the first spot, I shot a text because I was like, I know I'm preaching to the choir because y'all already know, but also like don't forget ABC.
Which is, go ahead and lay out.
Fools.
Lay out.
What I was saying was that let's not. How did I say it? What we have is gold, right? What we have is gold because we're very. I don't even have to describe it. What we have is gold. So let's be mindful of how much we're sharing with people. Let's be mindful with how much we're sharing to be sure that we can be certain that that person is tried and true. I'm about to pull it out.
Yeah, I think you should, because I felt like because it was timely.
It was so funny
because I think Shay was,
because then when y'all got back, I was like, oh, we were on the same page.
Shay was having to pull double duty on holding my fire and her own simultaneously.
Oh man, I'm so proud of y'all too.
And she
I
did
understand,
a great job.
I understand like what that means when you say that,
Yeah, because
lots of fire there.
Lots of fire there. And this one was like, I was lit.
Okay, I'm just
highly misunderstood.
I'm just read it.
Okay,
just straight up. Let's see. I'll touch base with y'all. Blah blah blah. They don't understand that we build the women to balance feminine, which gets us back to unity with the masculine. UNITY. I want to remind y'all that we're sitting on gold. Let's be mindful of how much we share while collecting data. We got to see who is true here. We know we're solid as fuck. And then I said, preaching to the choir, I know. Just wanted you to know where my head's at.
Right. And that snaps up for sure. And that moment, like, really helped to ground me back down and remind myself that, I mean, every once in a while, a bitch needs to be reminded of who the fuck she is. And that's what I think that we do for each other also, is to reflect that back. And anybody who comes into this space also is going to be reminded of that. And it's power. Oh man, it's so fun to watch, particularly, again, we don't just work exclusively with women, but that is who we are finding ourselves working with pretty, like, I think moving forward, when we think about those boundaries, that's where we're at. And so having a woman reflecting back the light that already exists in another woman to her, and then also simultaneously telling her, I see this in you, and I think that you could really probably do something with that.
It feels so good.
It feels so great.
Nice. And then why we do this.
Right. Well, the part that feels good, right, is yes, to be able to tell them that, but then their face, when there is recognition that you have seen them and you truly seen them, and then they can make that, like, in that instant, they make that connection that, wait, I wasn't like so far off base in my belief of myself, in myself. Maybe I could do something with this. And maybe this is the crew and the foundation that can really help me thrive in that way. That is the umbrella. That is the connection.
Existence as
Yes.
it's intended.
As it's intended. I feel a couple of things as we kind of move into wrapping up, right? I feel like I want to do a card pull.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yep. And
Yes.
then Shay, can I have the goddess cards too? Because I think I'm going to use those as foundation, and then I'm going to do this one over the top.
And I just want to say too, since we are wrapping up on, and you just keep moving because this is fine. Since it is the last day of Mental Health Awareness Month, I just want to shout out Sims Foundation here in Austin. The simsfoundation.org, so SIMS foundation.org. They are a wellness based for musicians here in Austin specifically, but they also have resources for non-musicians too. If you needed to find someone, a therapist of sorts, to do that. But the Sims Foundation, and I'm wishing I had pulled this up already because I wanted to show.
That's
real
Mary
quick.
Magdalene, in case you're wondering. She
that's
always
our
pops
gal.
up.
She does show up, Mary Mags.
Yep.
The Sims Foundation provides mental health and substance abuse recovery services and supports for musicians, music industry professionals, and their dependent family members. Through education, community partnerships, and accessible managed care, Sims seeks to destigmatize and reduce mental health and substance abuse issues while supporting and enhancing the well-being of the music community at large. So I've known a handful of people who have utilized their services, and I just wanted to shout that out on this last day because there are a lot of musicians in this city. And then if you're not a musician, just come to us, the Spiritualish Collective.
What do you feel like, Shay, is your greatest source of like mental, like if you were to give a resource, what do you think your resource is that you would put at the top of the list of recommendation?
Nutrition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there somebody that you follow outside of yourself? Because as you start to put yourself out there with your own work that you're doing as a nutrition, like a New Earth nutrition consultant. So first, this is your first stop, in case you're wondering, right here. And she won't say it, so I'll say it. She's your first stop as far as integrative nutrition is concerned. And so is there a source outside of yourself, outside of the spiritualishcollective.com? And once we get your particular funnel up and going, okay. Lord have mercy. Is there something a site that stands out to you in particular?
Honestly, there isn't.
There isn't.
I don't have one that I follow, a single one.
Well, you know what I feel about that.
Because she got all that medicine in house.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just really big on the intuitive piece, and a lot of people kind of always. A lot of people, preach certain diets or ditching this, ditching that. And that's never really resonated to me. I feel like things are all here for a reason, and certain things may not sit as well with others, but our bodies tell us that. And it's more about like intuitive following what our body's wanting to eat.
Man, we really got to get with ourselves. We can change the whole world this way. Yeah, like we truly do. And as much as we can quiet the noise from all the unnecessary things that go through our heads and start to listen, then you can really get a lot of information about what your specific body needs, what your how your brain functions better, when your emotions are how the food that you eat makes you think, clarity.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know. I mean, we're taught serotonin, dopamine, we very much connect that to the brain, but the vast majority of both is made in our gut. So if you have leaky gut, anything, inflammation, anything going on in there, like that's going to very, very, very directly affect your happiness levels.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like that's like the number one place to start.
Man, and we know where to send people too.
For sure. We have the resources, definitely.
Yeah.
We've collected a lot of the pieces to be able to help people like holistically all the way across the board with things that they're working on. We have so many resources to draw from within our own network,
We
which is
really
why we
do.
create what it is that we
Mhm.
create, to be able to send people and pair these different methodologies together in order for the individual who's receiving to reach optimal health, right? To
Right.
reach optimal mental, emotional, spiritual health, right?
Right.
It all has
So
to work together.
right. And
Yes.
if anyone is curious or looking for something specific, like please don't hesitate and feel free to send us a message through the mindful misfit _ the mindful misfit on Instagram, because we do, between the three of us, we know someone here that is an individual small business sovereignty based individual that we can send you to for that. We got some resources, so don't
Absolutely.
hesitate to reach out. You'd be surprised what you will learn.
Absolutely. So much. So on top, I think these are Doreen Virtue, right?
Yeah.
The Goddess Guidance Oracle cards, which, you know, you could have a whole, anybody who's in this kind of field can have a whole conversation about Doreen Virtue, but what she has created is already out there and it exists. So both of these are Oracle cards. So it's like more of a feeling, like it's definitely very feminine, the way the energy comes in, and there is room allowed for your own resonance, right, within your spirit. But what I'm seeing with Guinevere first, so I feel like this is a collective pull, and what came through was past, present, and then future, of course, but then it's like all happening right now as well. It's very, very present. So Guinevere is, I'm going to see if I can show you guys this. That's the true love card. And I think the romantic stirrings in your heart have propelled the universe to deliver great love to you. That feels very personal to me, but only because it's in my field, and it's in the field of the collective as well. Like you might be able to feel like the stirrings that they're talking about just kind of happening in the ether just outside of you. And what's happening as you come into that union within yourself, you are also drawing closer to uh, your intended, right? The person that and it might not be a twin flame. It could definitely be a soulmate. And that's a whole other discussion that we could have. But regardless, it's about that feeling, and as you draw that person to you, you will come into understanding of who they are as they move closer to you. So right now it's like you guys are circling around each other, but the intent that's happening here is for you to focus inside, like keep it inside and continue to work on yourself and doing the thing that you're doing. And then that will create more vibrational intensity with how you are pushing out your frequency in order to draw that person to you. So it's a little tricky, right? Because it's like this, no, stay over here. Keep your eyes on your own paper right now, but it's out there. It's happening. And the card that kind of corresponds with that, with the moon deck, is I welcome clear vision and inspired action. So
Which is also
I welcome that big
right,
time.
it's a 5 as well, creation. So I think when I look at these two cards together, what I see is that, like, again, it's like your own action that's happening within here, right? Inspired action that's happening within here that is drawing this to you. Like they're working together, but you got to just stay focused on this one lone. It's happening like this is one bird. There's not multiple birds up here flying around. It's one bird, like doing her own thing as it's attached to her, and as she moves through that space. So it's you flying on your own that is going to continue to draw this here, if that's what you're after. Now, true love also, remember, love shows up in many different shapes and sizes, and this does not necessarily, please don't limit this to simply like romantic love. These are romantic stirrings. She's definitely dressed for King Arthur or whatever is happening here. But just be mindful that true love also exists like this, and it looks like this, and take it back to, it doesn't always look the way that we have been shown. Open up to understanding and experiencing love in all all capacities. Okay, this is for us for sure. So this
I
is
love her.
Ishel. Golly, thank you.
Mhm.
You are a channel for divine healing and power. This was just for sure, definitely for our own edification, and understanding that there is a divine power that exists within, and not being afraid to really live in that space. To live in that space. I think we've spent some time dipping in and out. I'm going to be out and I'm going to be over here. I'm going to put this to the side. No, it's like actually who we are, and allowing that to wash over us and inundate our lives and our cells and our being, is where a lot of the power lies. And so what happens with that as we move into that powerful medicine woman state, we are also, this is the snake card. I shed habits that hinder my truth, I release and renew. So this is also goes hand in hand, right, with what I just said about, like, yes, we're here understanding that that's the truth, and because that is the truth, we are working through the process of shedding all of those other layers that prevent us from being in this space right here, because this is how true change happens for not only us but for the collective. Okay. And then this lady shows up for me often and always.
All of us here.
I had a reading about 18 months ago from Freedom Franklin, and in our work together, she said that I am to embody this, and this really helps me to temper my own fire. This is a reminder to stay in this space as often as possible. This is Kuan Yin, and she is the card of compassion. Release judgments about yourself and others, and focus on the love and light that is within everyone. And she is sitting on a beautiful pink lotus, minding her own business. Eyes down, just embracing all of the beauty. And pink is just like so soft. It's so womb like. And what more compassionate illustration than a womb? For bringing something through and just allowing something to form, with compassion. So there's that guy. And the oracle card, the moon deck card that goes along with that is my home is a sacred space full of beauty, inspiration, and protection. So allowing this Kuan Yin, this compassion that comes in your space, you should find space for finding and creating compassion for yourself in order to process, like, our homes. This has come up so many times. Creating beauty in our homes, in a way that creates comfort of the heart is essential. So don't cast off. Some of us are in a place to really value and understand the worth. Like, we deserve, like, my room, you walk into my room and it is like goddess land. Because when I wanted to be a reflection of, like, who I am and, like, how I want to feel when I'm in this sacred space where all of me is free to be all of me. Everybody should have a space on the planet where that is true of them. And adding beauty to that and being reminded of beauty and the ways that you find beauty creates more space for compassion, a softening that's happening.
And that I can speak from my own experience about when you're coming from a place of scarcity, that's a real tricky one. But what I want to tell you right now is spend a bill on that plush pillow. Like, get it.
Yeah.
Get it.
I mean, your sleep is everything. Like, all of these, again, a return to a more natural way of being, and the essentials, the things that don't matter go away, and the things that truly do matter resonate more than anything. And it's usually the simple things, but again, simple ain't easy, but that's where we put the work in. That's where we apply the work. I just want to do one more goddess for, like, everybody, and then we'll wrap up this show. Oh, okay. It was quick.
Oh my goodness. Y'all, like, it's so strange and not strange. It's actually pretty funny how quickly things go when we're together.
Abundance.
Oh.
And this is prosperity. The universe is pouring its abundance out to you. Be open to receiving. So all of these things work together to do that. one piece right there. So drawing all of these things in and continuing to allow these things to be drawn to you is essential. It's not a push. The universe works in pull action. Okay. So you just no forcing. We don't force things. We allow them to come to us as we are grounded in who we are, and in that grounding and integrity and vulnerability and all of these things, showing up honestly as ourselves, we are allowed to push out the frequency that matches with the things that are naturally already ours. It's naturally already yours. All you have to do is just be grounded in who you are and work to stay in that same space so that you can allow that true frequency to flow out of you, and then allow those things to bounce back to you. It's inevitable.
Thank you, Adrienne.
You're
That's
welcome.
great.
Last one, butterfly maiden. This is transformation. Okay. So we're all moving into this space where we are doing less thinking and more feeling. Thank you for that reminder. So this weekend, also, it's like, hey, a reminder. So this weekend, we are also producing our first We Talk Wellness, Energy, Alchemy talk with Sonia Kosharik. Is a very close spiritual-ish sister of ours, and she is the spearhead and creator of Monarch Sanctuary Project, which is a project that puts monarchs way stations in the Central Texas area. And she has really picked up some true steam in regards to what it is, like what her mission is. And so in the thing that we do, right, we are creating a platform for a world changer, a new earth builder, to be able to deliver her message in a way that is accessible to people. And so that's what we're doing Sunday right here, actually right out there in the Wolf Den.
The Wolf Den. Oh.
Yep. That is going to happen. We're going to put out the exact time, but it will be Sunday, June 6th with Sonia. And then we're going to follow up with her We Talk that will be recorded and will live in perpetuity on our website. And you guys will be able to visit that anytime that you want. But in addition to that, we're going to pop up here and do a live The Mindful Misfit presents Monarch Sanctuary Project podcast to have a real in-depth discussion about how she arrived to understand how essential the monarch migration and pollinators are just in general to the grander idea of how we all coexist here on this planet, and why it's so essential that we not let one piece slip away, and how that transformation, like her own transformation, because we're all just humans being, how her own transformation has been illustrated so very clearly in her interactions and kind of the journey that she's taking with this project that she is birthing right now.
Oh, and she's deeply passionate, highly educated on it, and just a bright light spirit to learn from. It brings so much joy to anything that she's presenting. I'm excited.
It's going to be great. Yep. And we're going to pop some things up on the website here really soon. As far as that We Talk with Sonia is concerned, there will be a place for you to offer donations both to her project and the Spiritualish Collective. And as we are creating more and more opportunity for you to touch base with us both in person and digitally. I feel really good about this show. It was a long one, mind you, and that's okay. Like, we had some things to say. We're going to put that up there. One of the projects that we're taking on is being able to offer our shows in little chunks, little bite-sized pieces. Of course, it will live on YouTube. So, I mean, you can just come on here and pick it up whenever you like. It's going to be available. The Mindful Misfit will be available wherever podcasts are heard very, very soon. And I feel like that's about it.
Yeah.
You got something? You got anything else?
I don't think so. Just that I'm just grateful to be here
Man.
with y'all. And I do want to say, definitely come see us Sunday, 701 Tillery Street, Squatch Frontier Fitness.
Yeah, we can say 1:30.
The Wolf Den, which is easily located. And just take what resonates from this.
Like in your life always.
Yeah. like with everything.
With everything.
This
with us,
is, you know, existence as it's intended.
That's right. Get in here. Bye.
Perfect. Oops, I thought that was that.